Hey my friends, welcome to the Forest of Magic and Wonder. Today we are here to connect with elderflower. It is the perfect season to be harvesting these flowers, and this is one of those powerful medicines that's been with us for a long time. So I hope you're excited to dive into the elder forest and learn with me a little more about how to work with this plant as medicine and more. Elder is one of those plants that's been people's medicine for a long time. There's thousands of years of history in using this as a folklore medicine throughout Europe, but also Asia, down into South America, and even in New Zealand, and all these different places that it grows. It's one of those plants that has a lot of different variants. There's over 24 species. This one in particular that we have here on the West Coast where I live in the Comox First Nations territory is the red elder. Now this is Zambucus racemosa. There's also a Zambucus niagara and a Zambucus canadensis that grow in this area. So blue and black, but the red is the one that's the most abundant here. So it's the one we're gonna work with as medicine. They're easy to tell the differences apart, but the reality is wherever the elder is and whatever type of elder grows in your area is the one you wanna work with. There is some caution though. I'll say the red, which is this one, you can't use the berries because they produce different anthocyanins in them, and that means that it can be toxic and a little bit of one of those medicines that we need to be careful of. You can parboil this out and make it edible, but the reality is the flowers are where it's at when it comes to the red elder. So that's what we're going to harvest today, and we're going to talk about some of the health benefits of all the different types of elder, the way we can use them as bark, leaf, berries, and flower in particular. But first off, let's make sure that we have the right plant, and let's just take a little bit of a dive into where it might grow. When trying to identify elder, the things to notice are not only the flowers, which has an effervescent smell, intoxicating, but also that it has a compound leaf, and each one of these leaflets, which is a part of the leaf, is a lanceolate shape with serrated edges along the margins of the leaf. We'll also see that the stems are hollow, and this is a big part of the medicine and the mystery and the folklore and the magic is in these hollow stems. And then the flowers have quite a pronounced smell, as well as the leaflets have those toothed margins, and it's a compound leaf. Oh, that smell is so intoxicating. This is the stuff of poetry and magic. Shakespeare even wrote about elder, and many historians have commented on the stink of it. I know I was picking some the other day, and my kids came and were like, "Did the cats pee in the house? What is that smell permeating throughout the house?" Now, that might seem funky to some, but to me, it's just this really intoxicating smell. And part of that is because the flowers have all kinds of fatty acids and waxy compounds in them. There's an effervescence. And some of you may have tried elderflower cordial or had elderflower champagne or drinks like that. This is a common additive for the flavor, but also the smell that is so intoxicating when it comes to working with this plant. That's part of the reason I'm out here harvesting it today, is I'm planning to make elderflower champagne, as well as mead and kombucha, and a little bit of elderflower cordial for this year's herb gathering. Elder can often be found growing in the open spaces in forests, often on the edges of the forest, by the sides of roads. It likes a little bit of wet feet, but it's considered to be one of those transformational transition herbs. Now this stems also to its medicinal value. We see that it's good for colds and flus, but it was also considered throughout medieval Europe and through its rich history as one of those plants that was between the worlds. There's a lot of mythos around this. Most of this plant is poisonous, and so there's some of these things in the myth around elder is it this herb of the underworld that brings you to the dead? And that has a lot to do with also, I'm gonna pull one of these stems. It's got these hollow stems. In fact, I hollowed one out here. You can see it's got a pith in the center, and the hollow stem is considered to bring you down into the underworld and to transform us between the worlds. And this is what we see in the way it works as medicine, but this is also how we see it in the forest. It grows in those transformational spaces. It likes to come in when there's a forest fire, and the seeds can lay dormant for years, and then it can grow back up and build that forest ecosystem back. It also can do the same with when roads have been cut through or any kind of cut path. We see elderflower starting to grow back into the space. This is part of its power, and this is part of the magic and the medicine of this plant, is that it transforms things. elder's Latin name is Zambucus, and this loosely translates into panpipes. And this is because the stems can be hollowed out to make a kind of eerie, foresty wind instrument sound. Well, I'm not sure I'm quite the flute maker, but the idea is that the sound that can go through these pipes has a bit of a hypnotic, trancing quality to it. It can either relax us down or bring us up, and in a sense, put us into a bit of a trance. And this is a bit of that mythos around the Pan Piper that put the whole town into the trance, or the mice into a trance, or all these old stories. Often it's elder that they're based on. The other piece to this is there's a bit of a doctrine of signature of how elder works on the tubules of the body, on the pores, on the lungs, on the blood vessels, on all the tubes in our body. This is one of the best medicines. But before we get into that, let's make a little offering to the elder. We'll harvest a bit and just kind of tune into its medicinal qualities. Both in European and First Nations traditions, it was common to give some type of offering to elder. This being one of those powerful plants, I brought a couple of things. I brought a little bit of smoke blend with some of the tobacco that we grew, and because I heard that some plants like a little bit of booze, I brought an elderflower mead from last year. So we're gonna open this up. Whoa! First, offer a little bit to the elder. Thank you, elder. Today we're gonna harvest you and work with you as medicine. And I just wanted to say I appreciate you and all that you do, both for the forest and for the people who need your healing qualities. Let me see if I can catch a little bit of that for myself. All right, cheers, my friends. To the elder and its magical qualities. I love this flavor. And I just love this plant. So I'm really excited to be making more medicine with it because it's one of those ones that just has such a great quality in almost anything you put it in. If it's a tea, it tastes great. If it's a mead, it tastes great. A cordial tastes amazing. Even these flowers can be used and pulled into small little bits and put into batter and made into fritters, and they taste delicious. All right, so I've offered a little bit of mead, and just in kind of the quality of offering some other herbs. This is a sacred herbal mix that I've made. It's a smoking mix with lotus and colt's foot and Labrador tea and mugwort and damiana, as well as a little bit of our homegrown tobacco that we bound up. So I'm just going to leave a little here for the elder. Appreciating you. I hope some of these herbs can be seen as a gift, and that your medicine and your spirit comes with us today and comes through on the video that we're making for those fine people who want to connect with you deeper. And with that, I ask, can we harvest you today? Maybe it's just me, but I'm getting an overwhelming heck yeah. So we'll see. When it comes to harvesting this plant, there's two ways we can do this. One is just a snap at the bottom of the stem, but these stems contain a little bit of the, I guess, anti-herbivore chemistry. Really, it's anthocyanins. So typically, the way I like to harvest is I actually like to pull with my fingers up the stem, leaving the stem like so, and just taking the flower tops, because the stem is going to have some of those qualities. So I'll do that again. Classically, I'll make my fingers like a fork and just pull off the flowers, like so. Now, something to note is that if we harvest all the flowers, it won't be able to produce berries. Now, luckily, most elderflower trees have, well, they grow quite a bit taller than humans, so it's hard to get at all the flowers. So I'm going to harvest on this one, these ones right here, but also want to leave some of those berries to grow out for the birds and for other creatures that actually can eat them. We can't eat the Zambucus racemosa, of the red elder, because it actually has those anthocyanins in the berries, really in the seeds, but the flowers make amazing medicine. And something else you might notice here, if you have a look at my hands, what is that? It's pollen, of course, one of my favorite parts of any plant. The pollens in any plant contain a lot of different active phytonutrients, building blocks, and amino acids, as well as kind of hormonal compounds. And in elder, the pollen is quite abundant, has quite a smell, and tastes great. So sometimes I'll just go along, not even harvest, but just get the pollen and tap the flowers just to pull out the pollen and become a pollen eater. This pollen is also really good as an anti-allergen. It's got some quercetin in it, and it's got some flavonoid groups and antioxidants that work as antihistamines in the body. So that's part of how this plant can work. Can work as an antihistamine, a bit of allergy season medicine during allergy season, right? When we breathe in pollens, we get allergic reactions, but often when eating them, and elderflower is one of those that has been used classically for allergies or for irritation and for irritation of the skin. Something else that can be done with these flowers is they can be made into a, if we get like eye allergies or weeping allergies, this can be made into a light tea and then little cotton cloths dipped in there and put on our eyes for irritation. If we get dust or pollen in our eyes, this is a great medicine to just clear that out of our eyes and cleanse our body. And we see a lot of benefits of the elderflower on the skin, but also all the immune system and so much more. So we'll get into the medicine, but really just in harvesting, again, simple pull is probably the best. These little flowers are then what we're going to use and dry or make a tea or make a tincture or make little fritters like I mentioned. Elderflowers have a lot of fatty acids in them. They've got sterols, they've got flavonoids, glycosides, and mucilage and tannins, and just a bunch of really awesome chemistry. They're high in vitamin C and all kinds of amino acids. This is part of how they work as medicine, as not a panacea, but a lot of different benefits for the body. There's something that can be used for transforming us out of imbalance. The most classic thing that we see elderflower for is working with cooling down a flu. This can be a diaphoretic, which means it helps you sweat. So it pulls the heat out of the body via sweat. And so when we have a fever, this is one of the best medicines. It's also quite gentle, so kids and elderly can enjoy it as a medicine that way. But really pulling the heat out of the cells, helping the skin open up, helping the pores open up, cleansing the blood, working with the digestive system. Elderflower has a lot of these benefits for just healing the overall, like I said, tubes of the body. Elderflower also helps with elimination, not just through the pores on the skin, but through the colon and the kidneys as well. It oxygenates the blood as well as helps decongest the circulatory system and the lymphatic system, making it really good for water retention as it's moving out water through the kidneys and helping decongest that lymphatic system. We also see that it helps decongest really any part of the body that has tubules. So the lungs are a primary area that elder's been used for, mostly for decongesting coughs and colds, especially when they're stuck, right? It can moisten and loosen a dry cough. So if there's that hack or that whooping cough or waking up with colic, classically for kids with colic, elderflower tea is one of the best medicines to help with the irritation of the tissues, but also to moisten and soothe and soften it. This is one of those herbs of transformation. Again, to take what isn't working and is out of balance and bring it back into balance. That's where elder's magic is. And that's how we're going to use it as medicine. One of the things that elder really helps do is bring what's necessary into focus. This makes it really good for things like ADHD. Many young kids, when drinking elderflower tea, relax their minds, come back into their body, and are more grounded and connected to their work, to their play, to all the things they need to do. So this is one of my favorite ways to work with this too, both as a sort of medicine for myself, but also for my children, both to calm them down and to help work with any kind of imbalances around erratic behavior. The magic of elder is it's both stimulating and relaxing. So if you want to work with this as a stimulating tonic, if you want to work with the fresh plant, if you want it to be a relaxing diaphoretic to cool down heat, the dried flower. So we're going to make different kinds of medicines like this space here. This is a transformational herb that shows up in transformational spaces to help to alleviate and eliminate what no longer serves. And this is the beauty of plants like elder. It's from the underworld to bring us into our dark night of the soul and transform us into a healthier, more vibrant person. All right, let's talk a little bit about how we might work with other parts. The flower, as you know, is amazing. It's a beautiful, just effervescent plant that we want to connect with and is easy to identify in the spring. It's one that we can harvest in abundance when we find it locally growing in an ecosystem. We want to be careful to save some for the berries because there's so much medicine in those berries as well. But you know what else there is? There's medicine in the leaf and the stem and all these other parts of the plant. Even though they're poisonous, these have been used as medicine too. So let's talk for a minute about the leaf and some of the medicine there. Elder leaf has that same smell. Wow, it's just stinky kind of. So you know there's some quality compounds in there, right? The problem is this is also quite toxic. And that's one of the things, often you'd grow elder by the edge of your garden as a bit of a bug repellent. In fact, this leaf was commonly put into the hat of farmers so that they could keep insects away. So if we've got mosquitoes in the forest, we might put a little bit of elder leaf in our hat to help keep them away, but also to keep pests out of the garden. Now this is a toxic plant, so we can't put this anywhere internally in the body. We don't want to have it in open wounds, but it does make a great poultice. And in order to do that, we just crush up the leaf and we mash it up. And this is fresh leaf poultice, really simply. You see, I've already got my hands kind of green and juicy. That poultice is really good for insect bites, for mosquito bites, for wounds that are closed, that is, and things that itch and irritate. For eczema on the skin, we can take the juices of elder leaf, put them on the skin that way. This poultice is also excellent for scabies, ringworm, rashes, eczema, anything that's inflamed, think elder leaf. So I've read about using the bark of elder, and really I think take a smaller one too. It's this, like any other plant, the inner cambium layer, but again, this is a toxic plant. So from most people's perspective, this is a poison part of the plant. We don't want to touch it, although it was in old European medicine used as an emetic to help to remove toxins that way. Small amounts of the bark tea were drank and people would vomit. I don't recommend doing that. I think it's far safer to drink elderflower tea. It's quite gentle and a little more consistent versus one hero dose of bark for a great big purge. If you want to see the other side, this is not the medicine. There's many other things you can do. So elderberry has that, again, old world kind of transformational, dark world quality to it. And even these old dead branches really kind of represent that. I really like that the elder tree makes these hollow tubes and has that kind of significance. I'm hoping to make myself some kind of musical instrument out of this. So I'm going to harvest a little bit of this old dead one today and see if I can carve it out and either make a flute or make a set of pipes for myself. So, okay, I can take a couple of pieces of this, like this, and like this. Yeah, this piece right here, that's what I'm going to work with. I'm going to try to cut this up in my wood shop and see if I can make a little set of pipes. Elder was considered to guard the boundaries between life and death, between sickness and health. Now, obviously, we know that part of this is due to the active compounds, part of this is due to the way it shows up, and in general, being a tonic that's stimulating and relaxing, this medicine has so much for us. Most of it's poisonous, but the flowers and the berries of the blue and the black are highly medicinal. Some of the most antiviral substances on the planet are elderberries. This flower in particular has a wonderful, oh, this one's looking a little bent down. There we go. This flower in particular has a wonderful quality to relax us, to bring us back into our body and just help us heal and build back anew. So I hope that you enjoyed connecting in with elderflower. It's one of my favorites. I love making cordials and syrups and all kinds of other things like that. If you want to learn about those, check out some of my other videos over here, or maybe it's here, one of these places, and dive in with me more on learning about elder. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. How have you used this plant? What do you know about elderberries and elderflowers? Do you like the berries or the flowers better? Have you worked with them as medicine? Share with the community and let us know how you like to connect with elderflower and other plants like this. All right, that's it for now. We'll see you next time, my friends. Brew.